gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
This is the Early Bird Special. We know you guys have been wanting us to do our top 10s in terms of fantasy and stuff like that. We will get to that, but we know we got about a week or two before fantasy football really starts to kick up. So we want to give a little bit of time. But since football is starting, because training camp has begun for everybody, we decided that we were going to do it in a little bit of a different way. We're going to go down each division and just give our thoughts on each division, plus who we think is just going to be the strongest teams to come out of each of them, which ones are the best divisions in our mind. And ultimately, if you really pay attention, you'll figure out who our fantasy studs are going to be for this year. Because, that's going to come hand in hand. Obviously, the best teams and the best players are going to get you the most points. So we will start with the AFC West. Who you want to start with, Mr. Sparky? We're going to start with the Chiefs, obviously being the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And just the champion that they are. The dynasty continues, I suppose. But I feel like this might be a step back year for the Chiefs. And here's why. The offensive line obviously has its issues. They were able to sign Trey Smith, the right guard, for a considerable amount of time. You have Creed Humphrey still there, and Mike Caliendo is obviously a solid guy on the left side as well. Biggest questions, though, are your tackles. Can they hold up? Can they just keep Patrick Mahomes upright and keep him from having to scramble so much? You're talking about a team who was 15th in scoring the last 2 years, which is a huge drop-off from being a top 6 team from the 5 years prior to that. And it is really weird to me that we're starting to see them as a defensive team. And when I say that, I mean, when you look at the defensive scoring that we've been just witnessing from their side of the ball, it's been night and day compared to what we saw 5 years ago. It really has been a complete shift for this squad. 5-6 years ago, we were talking about them being an offensive powerhouse that couldn't be stopped, but the defense was really the issue, right? We didn't know if the secondary was able to keep up. Although they had Tyrann Mathieu in the back, it wasn't exactly a for sure thing, and you could tear them apart if you had a good enough quarterback, essentially, as Joe Burrow had done. But when we're looking at them now, we're talking about a team that was number 2 and number 4 in ranked defensive scoring in the last 2 years. When Chris Jones is on the field, they can't do wrong. And although true, they don't have Honey Badger in the back anymore, and their secondary is now really just Trent McDuffie, it really hasn't taken a step back. In fact, they've gotten better and more cohesive. And honestly, they just keep adding pieces like Nick Bolton and Tranquil and all these other guys who have come in and just been absolute
both
studs.
Exactly. And I will second that. I don't think, coming off of last year with 15-2, which a lot of those games were nail biters at the end of the games, I think Kansas City takes a step back, and that division's only getting better. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to roll with them to win the division again. I think it'll be a much, much tighter division with a win-loss record. Mm-hmm. But I think, looking at teams that you'll get into, but Denver's getting better. Vegas has a whole new face to their team, and the Chargers are only getting better. But I still going to go with the vet-minded. Mahomes has got years and years above these guys, and with Andy Reid at the coach. And what you just said, I'll second that. The division or the defense has really stepped up for that team. Won a few of these games last year. I don't think they go 15-2.
No.
But I think they do still pull out the division.
Honestly, 10-7 would be a respectable number for this team this year. And that's wild to say when we're talking about the Chiefs. I still say they're going to be around probably 13-4. It'd probably be the final number. But when you look at the biggest issue for them, and again, this is a weird thing to say, but it's the skill guys, right? We're talking about an offense that hasn't been able to get a run game going at all. Isaiah Pacheco, although a pretty solid running back in terms of scoring, he can't really carry the load for you for over 100, 200 yards a game if you want him to. And that's why I'm highlighting Kareem Hunt this year, being the veteran to come back to the Chiefs. You've been in the system. In my personal opinion, the P. Ryan situation that they had last year, you should be able to do with Kareem Hunt this year and better, because Kareem Hunt is he's built to do that. That's just plays very well into his system. And when you look at the wide receivers, you obviously have Rice, who is
probably expected to miss the first month.
I would assume at least the first 4 games. And then you got Worthy. This is going to be not a make or break year for Worthy, but this is definitely going to be one of those years where they're going to look at the kid and say, all right, dude,
time to step up.
This is why we drafted you.
Yep.
Like, Rice came in last year and helped you out, and he'll be back in a month to help you out again. But right now we need you to be the one to really lean on, because at this
Hollywood.
point, yeah. Well, Hollywood Brown, obviously being the veteran, is going to be somebody you're going to call upon too, right? But you need somebody to be a consistent threat. And what I mean by threat, I mean when Patrick Mahomes scrambles, your butt's in the end zone, like Tyreek Hill used to be. And Worthy is the only one fast enough to be able to be that guy for them. The other major question mark, obviously, before we move on to the next team, Travis Kelce. We all love Travis Kelce.
No,
I love the podcast. I'll be the one to say it. I love Travis Kelce. Sparky may not be on the same.
I heard he was pretty good in Happy Gilmore too. So.
Oh, he's fantastic, but he's also plays an absolute just dill hole. So it's something that you're going to enjoy as well. But no, what are we going to get from Travis this year? Is this entire thing really fading away in front of our eyes, and is it time for him to retire? Who knows? We'll see at the end of this year. I feel he's going to make an ultimate decision, but I think, from hearing what I've heard from ESPN pundits from the last month and a half about not only Patrick Mahomes, but Travis Kelce himself, I think we're going to get a return to form from both of them. Patrick Mahomes was in the gym 2 days after losing the Super Bowl. That's something that you really, if you're a fan of the Chiefs, you love to hear that, because that's Kobe-like mentality. Okay, I gave myself a day to grieve, back to work.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have a pissed off Mahomes after losing the Super Bowl. I would expect him to have a better season. I still think they win the AFC West. I'm not 100% sure on Kelce. I drafted Mahomes in my fantasy last year, and of course, it was the bad year for him.
Naturally.
But I still think Kelce is...
Kelsey's the big question mark, right? Like, are we going to get the Kelce of old?
Yeah, I don't see it.
I don't know if you're going to get, the Hall of Fame level Kelce, but if we can get anywhere close to a top 5 tight end from him at the end of this season, I think you're going to have a successful year as a Kansas City Chief. And the only thing about success for the Chiefs is a Super Bowl win. But that's what's going to take, right? You're going to need Travis Kelce to go back to maybe not the best tight end in the league. That may be a little bit too much to ask, but at least in the top 5 in the conversation at the end of the year. And I don't know. I don't think that's a lot to ask from Travis Kelce to be top 5, being who he is, but that's just me. Let's move on real quick to the next team before we have to take a break. Personally, I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos.
Me too.
Denver Broncos are really the only team to me that fit the threat-like mentality for the Chiefs. As much as I would love to say that the Chargers could get there, there's way too many question marks for the Chargers, and I still don't know if the Chargers can put together an offense to really make the Chiefs scared yet. We'll get to that in a sec after the break. But the Denver Broncos, led by Peyton, who is looking to make the New Orleans-style offense that they had when he was there in Denver, has the perfect quarterback to do that. The only thing that's going to impede it this year is the sophomore slump. And you know how I feel about that. I am 110% a believer in the sophomore slump. And unfortunately, I think Bo Nix is just lined up perfectly to have a sophomore slump. Because if you look at the last 14 rookie quarterbacks to land in the top 15 in stats, only 4 of them the next year come back to look good. So statistically, it doesn't look good for Bo. I would say, though, that his age and his experience in college football, because he has a little bit more than everybody else, is probably going to help in this situation, because he's had so many seasons behind him as a starting quarterback. It may just be one of those situations where he says, I'll shake it off and continue, as he did at the beginning of last year. But I don't know. What are your thoughts, my friend? Because I think the Broncos are poised, especially with the defense they're set up with Patrick Surtain.
That's what I was going to say. I like the Denver defense. I think they won 10 games last year. I think the defense is going to get better. I'm not sure about Bo Nix. Like he said, the sophomore slump is a real deal. But I think having Sean Payton as their coach, I think will benefit him, plus his age. And I like the pickup of Evan Ingram. I think he's a perfect tight end for that type of offense.
Reminds me a lot of Jimmy Graham.
I was just going to say the Jimmy Graham type tight end that we saw in Peyton and in New Orleans. I still think Denver is going to be a 9-10 game winning season like last year. I think they'll be fighting for that wild card. And I think the Chargers will be right on their tail. But we'll take our last break of the hour. We'll get into the other two teams, the Raiders and the Chargers, right after this. This is the Early Bird Special on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back.
So we agree. What do you think? The Chiefs?
Chiefs Broncos.
Chiefs Broncos.
Chiefs Broncos for sure. Broncos are going to be in that area of 10-7, I feel. I think they'll improve just a tid. And that doesn't mean like they aren't improving or aren't capable of getting there. I just think that in the situation that they're in, it works out for them to have a little bit of a step this year for the major step next season. It is just going to be step-by-step kind of a thing.
I agree. I think that's the Chiefs. I think they'll squeeze out the division, but teams are
right on
are
their
adapting,
heels.
and especially
Right
in that
on their
division.
heels. And honestly, it's a good situation for you to be in, right? If you're the Denver Broncos, you look at what you're building right now on the offensive side at least. You got essentially, like we said earlier, the New Orleans Saints blight. You got Drew Brees in the making with Bo Nix, at least you hope, right? Smaller quarterback, very accurate, can move when he needs to, and is a great leader on the field. You got a great wide receiver out there with Cortland Sutton, who can be your Marquez Colston situation. You have the Jimmy Graham-like tight end now with Evan Ingram. I think that it could really, really work out for you. You're building a solid offensive line, and the defense is studly, led behind arguably the best corner in the league.
With Surtain, I love their safety, Brandon Jones. I think they're only going to get better.
You have to have a dang good reason to move on from the safeties they had, and that kid made a very good made you look smart. Let's just say that, because moving on from guys like that I've seen in Denver, it's incredible what they've been able to do with switching out the pieces with the young pieces, and it's only getting better, right? So that's what I'm saying. This year you'll take a small step, and I know that sounds like a slight. It's not. I promise you. I don't mean that as a slight at all. You'll take a small step for the massive step that we'll be preparing for next season.
And I still think they probably pull out a wild card like they did last year, and
absolutely.
We'll see who gets hot at the right time.
Third team in this list, though, for me, Chargers.
Yep,
I got the
same
Chargers. And look, man, I am not saying that Jim Harbaugh can't make it work. I think that he wants to create a run-first offense to help Herbert. I think that he thinks that a solid run-first offense will help, just like he had in Michigan with JJ. He didn't expect JJ to throw for 300, 400 yards every game. 200 was good enough with a couple touchdowns, and he allowed everybody else to get in on the action too. And I think that's what he's trying to create here in LA, because obviously the signing of Slater yesterday was a big signing of that. Going out and getting a proven veteran running back in Najee Harris, who's usually a 1,000-yard marksman every single year. This year is obviously a wild situation because the fireworks situation he's still dealing with. But you still went and drafted a kid in Omarion Hampton who could probably be that guy for you anyway. It looks good for the Chargers. Obviously, you lost a handful of wide receivers and you lost Mike Williams again, so I'm not exactly sure what you're going to get out of that, right? That's why I put you at 3. I think you're still a 500 team, maybe 9-8, 8-9, somewhere in that area. You might fall off a little bit at the 7-10 area, but it's going to be tough for me to say that you have the offensive capabilities now to beat teams like Denver and Kansas City, let alone anybody else that's going to be coming to your yard. And
those division games with the Raiders are
they're tough and stuff. You're going to split with the Raiders, and that's saying something. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how it is, it's going to be one of those years for Jim Harbaugh and this offense. Is it going to work? I think that you're set up really well, and I think bringing in Greg Roman is a great situation for you as well, because Greg Roman, for those of you who don't know, who handles the offense, the last 9 of his last 10 teams have been in the top 4 in rushing. So they have a clear ID what they want to do. They want to be the run-first team, just like Philadelphia was. I just don't know if you have the pieces to really make it work right now.
I personally think they're going to win 10.
Do you think they're going to
10 games? I think they'll take a step back from 11-6 from last year. I always have a question on Herbert. I think Harbaugh gets the best out of Herbert. We'll see what that best is. I really think I circled when I was looking at their depth chart and their rookies. I really like Trey Harris. He's a big boy type wide receiver. And I think, the Williams injury and the question mark for me is the running backs. I don't know Hampton well enough to know if he could step in and be a
number one running back.
I mean, he could probably be, but I just don't know if he has the durability to be that starting running back all season. I hope so. I have him on my mock drafts. I've looked at him. I just don't think if Najee can't be healthy for the season, that will be the big question mark, and that will, kind of go in with what Herbert can do. I don't see Herbert as a top 10 quarterback.
I remember you
but
saying that.
He could fit perfectly with this Harbaugh type offense, and my question is really the defense as well. But I think they take a step back, maybe win 9-10 games, but probably miss the playoffs.
It's going to be one of those situations where Herbert is going to be what takes you to the promised land, and Jim Harbaugh can get anything out of any quarterback he works with. I genuinely believe that. He can get anything out of any player he works with. He's just that enthusiastic and that charismatic. But this situation for the Chargers is just weird to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just... Jury's still out to me on if this offense could work, especially with the lack of production from wide receivers. Ladd McConkey is great, but is he really a number one guy? I mean, we've been saying this about a lot of different guys at his position as well, though. We said the same thing about Julian Edelman, Wes Welker. So maybe he comes out and absolutely just proves everybody wrong. But at this point, I just don't know if they have what it takes to supersede the two teams we said earlier, which are the Broncos and the Chiefs. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if both of those teams beat them outright on both sides of or on home and away. I mean, let's move on real quick to the Raiders with the little time we have left. Last in the division, but I don't think that's going to be a bad thing for the Raiders. And hear me out. You're going to have a completely new team, completely new scheme. And honestly, I know I said a couple weeks ago that I felt like a bad start might lead to a fire sale for the Raiders. I'm going to recede that. I'm going to pull that back. I don't think it is. I think Mark Davis has a belief in what Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly can do here. I do think, though, that Pete Carroll is going to be on a short leash. If we don't get a good season or two out of him to begin this, I do think the Raiders move on from Pete Carroll quickly and potentially move on to Chip Kelly, because you don't pay him that money to just kind of sit there and not be the next in line. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Because I know Ashton Genty obviously is going to be on a lot of people's big boards. And I'm going to throw this out there too before I give it to you. I'm sorry, but next year in fantasy football, we're going to be talking about Ashton Genty as a top 10 pick for your fantasy football drafts. That's just my prediction.
I'm already looking at him.
Are you really?
I'm already looking at him because I know what Genty can do in college. I watched enough of him, and I think with the Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly type offense, I think he's gonna get the carries. So I mean, I don't know if he'll play out, but I definitely know that Genty's gonna be the workhorse. Plus, I like Mostert as a fill-in if he can hold on to the ball. Mostert is a great running back 2 or 1B or whatever the hell they call him now. I'm going to probably say the same thing. I think the Raiders are better than they were last year. I think they win more than 4 games. It's also the first year under this regime. I don't know what Pete Carroll or Geno can bring, but they have a mindset of what they have. They have a plan, and that's what has been missing with the Raiders the last couple of seasons. So I'm kind of excited. I love Genty. I wanted him in Miami, and I think losing Wilkins is my question is on the defensive side. I know they picked up some other guys, plus they have Max and they have big guys, but that Wilkins contract is going to haunt them if they ended up losing that grievance.
Absolutely. And honestly, we have a little bit of a development in that situation as well of what led to the Christian Wilkins release. We'll get to that after our interview with Leanne Morgan. Again, Raider fans, don't fret. I don't think you have anything to worry about. It's going to be a rough year. Don't get me wrong. I got you guys probably about 6 games 7 games, I think you make an improvement. Consistency at the quarterback position is going to be huge for you when it comes to Geno Smith being there. And honestly, I think this is just a bridge year for you anyway. Much like we talked about with the Broncos, you have the pieces that are sitting there ready. You just got to find the right guy to put them together. I'm not sure if Pete Carroll is that guy, though. I'm just going to go out there and say that. Your offense is going to go from probably the second most pass-heavy to a very run-centered one. So it's going to be a really interesting year for you. We'll take a break real quick, get to the NFC West on the other side of this break. This is the Early Bird Special on ESPN Bakersfield. Early Bird Special Hour 2. Join us in the 8:30 segment. We got Leanne Morgan, comedian, coming on. She's going to be here at the Dignity Health Theater on Saturday during her 100-plus city tour. 100. This isn't the first one she's done, too. That's one of the questions I wanted to get to her. This is part of the Just Getting Started tour that she's on right now. She, I believe, has done at least 1 or 2 of these. And that for those of you who have not traveled like that, 100 cities in a tour is wild. The amount of work she must be doing. That's why we have a very small time crunch with her, very 10, 15 minutes like situation. So we got to get it in and out. But I'm very excited to talk to her just because I'm excited to hear about this entire series that she's going to be a part of. Leanne on Netflix is going to be dropping on Thursday. So we'll get to that when we get to that here in the next half hour. We got to get to the NFC West, though. We gave you our thoughts on the AFC West. I mean, pretty unanimous as last year. Same thing. Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders. Not necessarily something that can't change, obviously, but I just don't have a whole ton of faith that Pete Carroll is the answer for you out there in Las Vegas.
The only thing we saw is a swap with the Broncos and Chargers, and it's really going to be close. It was a game difference last season, so
I just feel like you're going to get more of a proven product with the Broncos than you are with the Chargers, right? I mean,
and growth from the Raiders, and we'll see how.
Yeah,
they've got to be better than the 4 games last year.
100%. But let's get to the NFC West, which personally, in my opinion, I am going to take the Rams to win this.
Me too.
It is hard to pick against them when I really boil. Like, I'm looking at all 4 of these teams. I don't love the Cardinals. I don't love the Seahawks, but the Seahawks at least are it's kind of the same thing as the Broncos, right? Your defense at least is a proven commodity and you can get behind it. But the Rams, again, unless I can see something different, Sean McVay rules the West. The offense is going to be right in step with what it usually is. The only issue is that you're going to be led by a aging quarterback. And if we're going to sit there and say Aaron Rodgers isn't enough to make it to a championship, you can't sit there and tell me Matthew Stafford isn't in the same conversation. I love Matthew Stafford. And again, I know it sounds like I'm just throwing shade at the guy, but I'm not. I feel like there are unfair expectations to put this all on Stafford. I think you need more from everybody. I think the defense, although everybody, you're losing out on one of the best players to ever play at his position in Aaron Donald. But
Cooper Kupp's gone.
Cooper Kupp is gone as well, correct. And you really haven't filled that era. I mean, you have with Cooper, I shouldn't say that, but the defensive side of it, you haven't filled that at all. I mean, you look at the defense, it's really just low 20s in most of the statistical categories. I mean, 18th in conversion percentage, 19th in defensive scoring, 24th in yards given up. So you can't sit there and say that you look great on defense. You need more from the defensive side of the ball, and you need more from these wide receivers specifically. I need a big year from Devontae Adams.
I think we see it.
I think we have seen it. I think it's going to be there. But that is going to be the key to me. It's not going to be, can Stafford get them the ball? We know Stafford can throw them the ball. We know Stafford is a tough son of a gun and will sit in there and will take every hit that you ask him to and deliver. So to me, your success is not based around Matthew Stafford. I feel like that is a wild and way too high of a thing for him right now. And I don't mean that in a sense of a slight towards him. I think the pressure should be on everybody else.
I think we get a better Devontae than we've seen recently. My question is, if Kyren Williams and Puka can stay healthy, I think they have the division.
Absolutely.
But that's a big if they can stay healthy.
Is the other big if too, right? Because everything that I read, and I don't mean this is my thoughts, I'm just kind of echoing them. no one's really taking him seriously as an elite running back.
I love that guy.
I do too. I mean, we're talking about a guy who scored a touchdown in dang near every game last year. How is he? What? He was rushing for over 100 yards almost every game. What are we talking about? Like, that is where I'm like, that was really disrespectful for most of what I read. It's like, oh, he's not fast enough or big enough. When are we going to get over that? It's not about how big or fast you are. It's about the work ethic and how you are set up in the scheme. If it works for you, it works for you. And trust me, Kyren Williams on the Rams, it works. And it's going to continue to work. That's what I'm saying. So that's where I agree with you. I don't understand why people are the disrespect of Kyren Williams is absolutely ridiculous to me.
Do you think Puka, if healthy, continues his fantasy stats?
100%. And again, that's where I'm at with this team, is that you really haven't lost a step in terms of having a star wide receiver. It is more, how can you get the most out of them?
I mean, obviously, Devontae and Cooper are different types of receivers.
Yes.
And I think it's an upgrade when it comes to that offense. I think the double with Puka and Cooper Kupp, it was almost running into each other. And I think the Devontae with McVay is only going to make this offense better. But the age of Stafford, I think this is probably his last year or so, maybe two, with the Rams. So I really think Kyren is the dark horse. Mm-hmm. I think I would circle him or highlight him on fantasy if you can. And he always drops later than what I would always circle him at. But I do like the Devontae pickup. I think that it was kind of good for him and his career to get away from Rodgers. And I think they pull out the division.
I have to agree. It's just the only major question mark I have for them, again, is the defensive front. I need to see something change there in order to believe that you are a contender for a Super Bowl at least, and your offensive front as well. The inconsistencies on the offensive line have killed you, and honestly, it's what got Stafford hurt last year. I'm not going to sit there and say Stafford's got 1 year left. I think barring an injury, he's got multiple. I would say that he plays out the rest of his contract with the Rams at least. But barring he gets injured again this season, knock on wood, God would hate to see that. But it is a certain situation where I feel like you need more from everybody else than you need from him. You have what you're going to get from Matthew Stafford. You're not going to magically get anything better from Matthew Stafford.
So last year, the Rams and Seahawks ended the season both at 10-7. With the Rams pulling out the tiebreaker, you think it's going to be as tight as it was last year?
Probably. Again, the West beats up on each other so much in both AFC and NFC.
I was going to say in both.
Well, you could say that about a lot of these divisions, I guess. But it is one of those situations where it always seems to come down to a tight race at the end of the year. I don't know if Seattle's going to be that team to be at the end of it, though. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's the Cardinals. I'm still going to ride with the 49ers.
That's our first disagreement.
I understand that, but I'm going to sit here and say, although the 49ers have easily been the most gutted team this year because you lost 8 starters, but when you really look at what they've set up, you still have Kyle Shanahan. You have the system that he creates. You have the quarterback to run it because Brock Purdy is the perfect quarterback to run it. You have Christian McCaffrey coming back from injury. Brandon Ayuk will be back from injury. I think a lot of these guys come back very angry and ready to prove it this year. That last year was, I don't want to call it a fluke, but it was definitely an injury-riddled year for them that they kind of just halfway through said, it's a wash, it is what it is. And the biggest highlight to me that I think we need to start talking about a little bit more is even with all the discrepancies that we heard about later after the fact, Debo and all that type of stuff, you never heard a peep. So this team, that shows me this team is a cohesive unit. They have camaraderie, and even though there's drama within, they don't let it leak out. That's a good sign. That means that although you'll have the situation still, that's going to happen throughout the season. There's going to be no major distractions from the 49ers. And arguably, that puts you in a better spot already than Seattle. I don't mean this to sound wrong against Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold coming into this season already is a distraction. Is he going to be better? Or is he going to be as good as he was? Or are we going to get the Carolina New York Jets Sam Darnold? That in itself causes too much turmoil. And the minute that Sam Darnold starts to look like the Sam Darnold of old of the Jets and the Panthers, we're done with him. The media is done with him. Everybody, oh no, he can't do it. It was all the system. It was all the Vikings. They just made him look good. They just made a mistake paying him all this money. It's all going to be a massive distraction. So in my opinion, when you really look at what these two teams present, I think the Niners are in a better spot to fight for the title than the Seattle Seahawks will be.
I think the Niners will get better. Obviously, going off of a 6-win season, I think they'll be better. But you mentioned it right when you started it. They've been gutted, and there is a lot of core pieces that they lost. I know the Debo thing isn't as big of a deal as everyone says because Debo's hit and miss with injuries throughout the last 3 years with the Niners, but he is a big chunk of what that offense did to run. But losing McCaffrey last year early in the season kind of highlighted what we were getting out of the Niners. I think they get up 8-9 wins this season, but I still think they finished third in the division.
Yeah, but again, the only thing that I can honestly say Seattle has over them is the consistency at other areas of the field. But we also have to think, if we're going to talk about the Niners being gutted, Seattle's team has been gutted too. You lost both of your starting wide receivers, and Lockett and DK Metcalf. Granted, you still have Smith and Jigba, but have we really seen enough out of him to say he's a pure number one wide receiver? I say no, but I mean, we'll see after this year. Sam Darnold obviously coming in as a big question mark, as I mentioned earlier. Their offense has never been able to put up a top 15, let alone a top 20 rush game. They've been 28th in the league the last 2 years in a row, have been a team that has had to rely solely on the pass game. And yet you took away the top two choices for him. So I think that everybody's kind of looking over that when it comes to Seattle, right? I love the head coach. McDonald is a fantastic coach. He's a defensive-minded guy, though, and it's going to stick that way. He's not going to magically be able to fix the offense when he's had nothing there. So that's where I think that is going to be the biggest issue with Seattle, right? And it's going to take them back into that third place area, because even with the Arizona Cardinals, because I don't even know if Arizona is going to be the team we saw last year. They may show up out of nowhere like they have the last couple of years, because it seems like every other year Arizona puts it together. But Seattle, we got to talk about how they've gutted all of the skill players out of there. Your offensive line hasn't exactly gotten better, and you're essentially putting all of your money into the Sam Darnold bucket. So if Sam doesn't work, the team's not going to work.
I love their coach. I think I'm on the opposite side. I think Darnold fits perfectly with McDonald. I like Smith-Njigba. I love Cooper Kupp in Seattle, and I think that is a team that is overlooked. I think the Niners have bigger holes to fill than Seattle, and I think Seattle getting younger on the defensive side will actually benefit them. And the division isn't going to be that tight. I believe what we saw out of the first year with McDonald, I think, will grow. And obviously he's a defensive-minded coach. I think the Seattle defense probably takes a step back just because they're young, and it's just the first year with a lot of these younger guys. But I do like the offense. I love the running backs in Seattle, and I think Darnold is just slap me later, but I think it's an upgrade over Geno. I think what Darnold can do in this offense, especially with a big receiver like that, plus a Cooper Kupp that's coming out, happy to be in Seattle, back with where it's, his hometown area.
Absolutely.
And I think we get an upgrade of Kupp as long as he can stay healthy.
That's the big question for me. Because, again, I know everybody's texting you, what about Cooper Kupp? Obviously, Cooper Kupp got put into the wide receiver room. Fair. But can Cooper play the whole season? Have we seen Cooper play the whole season for a while? No. So as much as I'd love to say, yeah, Cooper Kupp could come in and be the Cooper Kupp of old that he was with the Rams and just absolutely tear people apart in Seattle, and we could see essentially a partnership between him and Sam Darnold that could propel them into the playoff run. But I'm not going to sit here and live in Delulu and say that he hasn't had his injuries and he isn't getting older. There's a reason the Rams moved on from him. It wasn't exactly because he wasn't producing for them offensively. Everybody knows that Cooper always was going to catch a ball if thrown to. But it's more of, can he stay healthy? Can this wide receiver room really become a cohesive unit if he's not there? And again, I don't know if Seattle's really made the necessary steps to become that team yet. I really don't. The defensive side of it, I give them credit because they have two great defensive ends in Leonard Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously crashing down on quarterbacks at all times. And Witherspoon is going to be a really, really just stud corner, nickel corner, wherever you want to put him, player for you for the Seattle Seahawks for the foreseeable future. But is that enough to get through teams that have guys like Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Kyler Murray? I mean, there's a lot here. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a massive year this year.
Well, we'll take our break and we'll get into the Cardinals, and we'll get into a couple football texts since we've got into the West. And then we'll get into our sit-down with Leanne Morgan, who will be joining us at 8:30 ahead of her show this weekend, Saturday. Get your tickets right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special. Here in about 10 minutes, we're going to be talking to comedian Leanne Morgan.
An actress.
And author. She's done everything at this point.
Jewelry seller.
She's got a wild story on how she got into that. Yeah, I was just about to say, like, the jewelry story is crazy. I can't wait to get into this with her, but she is going to be a fantastic interview. Hope you join us here. She talks about her next show here in Bakersfield this Saturday at Dignity Health Theater. And again, tickets are available at AXS.com. Go buy them right now. Go. We'll wait for you. It's okay. All right, we're back. Anyways, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals because we've given our thoughts on the other three teams in the NFC West. Again, I think that it's going to come down to if Arizona really can put it together on the offensive side. Drew Petzing has led this team to a top 12 standing in yards and scoring while outrunning dang near every team except for the Ravens and the Eagles. But we still can't get Kyler Murray to run for some reason.
It's probably best.
You're probably right. Yeah, honestly, I was thinking about it while writing my notes. I was thinking, oh, you know what? They're right. He never runs anymore. We never see the explosive plays from Kyler that we used to see. And I think you're right. I think that's why. I think that it's the health situation. He knows, obviously, he's a smaller quarterback. He's a smaller guy, and getting hit hurts a lot. So maybe that's by design. Maybe they don't want him to run that much. I mean, I think while doing my notes, if I'm right, he ran maybe 3 times within the 5-yard line of their 23 they took in the entire season. So it's one of those situations where he really does not want to run for touchdowns anymore. But if that is so the case, do you think that this entire partnership between him and Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to work? Or is Arizona going to have to move on to a different quarterback?
I think this whole Arizona, when I was doing my notes, Arizona is a tough one for me. When I was looking at it, I don't think the Niners is as good as the media puts out. And I could be way wrong with Seattle, and Arizona could be the team that surpasses them. I do like Kyler, but he is a kind of hot and cold type quarterback. Sometimes he still makes those rookie mistakes where, like, why the hell did you throw that when you had 10 yards wide open to run? And I do like that, you know, you don't have to run as much when James Conner is running like he has the last couple years. I do think, to your question, I think we get the better Marvin Harrison. I think he surpasses the 1,000 yards this season. I love the kid, and I think his rookie year was kind of tough, just dealing with media, dealing with this Fanatics crap to start the season. I think this is his full off season where he has his mind on the prize. I think Arizona is going to be a better team, but I just don't know if they have the pieces to be a playoff team quite yet.
Again, it's kind of the same thing for me when I look at Seattle, right? I mean, outside of the fact that Arizona's defense is nowhere near as good as Seattle's defense.
I could see the same thing.
Is Arizona's defense, when you look at how bad they were last year, I mean, it was really just 28th in third down conversion, 20th in yards given up. You look at every statistical category, they looked ugly outside of maybe 2 or 3, and I think those like pass deflections. So it's not ones that are really going to be great.
Yeah.
It just shows that you get thrown on a lot. And it's just ugly when it comes to the Arizona defense. So that's where I'm at when it comes to this team is, although your offense has looked good in the top 10 to 12 area, you still have to figure out a way to get this, at least this duo to work in Kyler and Marvin, because it didn't work very well last year, at least at the beginning of the season. Kind of picked up towards the end, but we didn't get to see exactly how capable these two can be as teammates together. I think you're going to see that more this year. I think you're right, Spark. But you also need a massive, massive overhaul of this defense, because the last good Arizona defense, and they weren't even that good, they were just good enough to make the playoffs, was when J.J. Watt was there. And that was really the last time they were formidable, because they were undefeated at home, although they still got embarrassed by the 49ers in the playoffs and sent home very quickly. Or it was the Rams. It was one of the two. It was Rams or 49ers, regardless. I just remember it was a division game, and they got embarrassed and sent home. And they have never really bounced back from that since. I don't think Kyler has really bounced back from that entire situation. So when I look at the Arizona Cardinals, your ceiling, unfortunately, is how good your offense could be. And for me, an offense in the NFL without a defense can only win you maybe 6 games. Maybe. And that's if you are a really good offense.
I think we're on the same page. I think I had him at 6-7 wins.
Yeah.
I do like what the hell was his name? The guy that was with the Dolphins last year, and he went back to finish his career in Arizona.
Oh, Calais Campbell.
I love that he's back in Arizona, but I think there is, like you said, there's several positions on that defense that I just don't think they could get into double-digit wins. And I mean, I could see them pulling out some sneaky wins out of, the division games, whether it's Seattle. I could be way off with Seattle. I'm just leaning towards of the coaching. I like the coach McDonald, and I just don't think McCaffrey can stay healthy for a full season. So I think Arizona could definitely get some sneaky wins that they weren't projected to win, but I still think they're a couple years away.
I just find it funny that if you really took the Seattle Seahawks and what they did good, and the Arizona Cardinals and what they do good, and you put them together, you would have probably the perfect team for the NFC West. You really would. If you took the defense of the Seattle Seahawks and put it together with the offense and maybe the wide receivers from Seattle as well, just to give them a little bit more, I think you would definitely be beneficial. It would make a team that could at least take this division pretty handedly, but you can't get either of them to actually fix their problems enough to make a big enough leap forward over the Niners and the Rams. That's why I'm like, until I have seen some sort of major overhaul from both of these teams, I am forever going to say it is the Rams and the Niners division until obviously Stafford retires, and then it's just going to be the Niners division, because apparently that's how everybody believes this Rams team to be, is it's Stafford and everything else. I'm like, no, I think that Stafford benefits from a very good team of very good players that is also led by an offensive guru in Sean McVay. So I don't know. I still would stand by mine that I'm going to go with the Rams first, Niners second, Seattle third, Cardinals fourth.
I got the same thing. I just swapped Seattle and Frisco.